Hello, welcome to Skye's Sweaty Record Review, the only new music review show hosted by a French professor immediately after getting off the elliptical. So, it's very exciting. I'm up to 25 subscribers, so I'm going to be doing a 25 subscriber special. That was my kid's idea. I think they were making fun of me, but I'm going to do it. I've got a few requests for old albums to review. Normally I only review something that's less than a week old, but I'm going to be doing that, so if you're interested, leave comments in the comment place. Boy, I guess now I should actually ask people to subscribe now that I'm a real YouTuber. But today we're going to get to an album, and it's by a band called X-Re. That's EX:RE. Like, it looks kind of like a subject line in an email. So with my newfound internet fame, I'm going to instill a new segment. As you hopefully know, one of the guiding principles of this show is no editing, no production value. So that means that if I have little segments, I have to come up with ways of highlighting them. So get ready for a brand new feature on Skye's Sweaty Record Review, Professor Payne's Pretentious Preface. That was a lot of alliteration. I was going to call it Professor Payne's Positively Precious Pretentious Preface, but I thought that was a little bit too much. So what I mean is, I am a professor, that is my job, and quite often I have these sort of big ideas about music, and I really want to expand. But the thing is, even though, it can be smart, it can be dumb, but I wanted to be clear that I know that sometimes I read too much into things or I go too far. So if I make fun of myself, it'll make it easier for everyone to make fun of me, which is my ultimate goal. So what I want to say is I want to talk about this album, X:RE, because it's very mysterious as a title, and I just found it. It came out last week, and then there was nothing in the bio section on title when you look up the artist. So I was like, okay, and then I just looked it up on Safari while I'm there, exercising, and I find this article by NPR. And I start reading it, and it starts talking about, that she was a member of some other band, Daughter, and that this is an album about her breakup with, and then I closed it. I didn't want to know. To a certain degree, what I really want to try to do with this show, and I think people should do more of, is really stick with the music itself. There's a French post-structuralist philosopher, Derrida, over there, who said that there's no such thing as the outside of the text. That's a bad translation. But the basic idea is, well, actually, I'm not going to say the basic idea because no one knows what it means. No one knows what anything means. The way I take it is that there's nothing outside of what you actually read. You don't need to know biography. You don't need to know whether or not the person grew up on food stamps to a single mother. You don't need to know if they broke up with a celebrity. You don't need to know if they broke up with their bass player, their drummer, whatever the situation is. Art can be taken exactly as it is, without biographical information, and just appreciated on its own. So I discarded the NPR review. I don't even remember the name of this artist, like the name of the woman who's singing. It's like Tonra or something, some weird last name like that. Instead, I'm just going to be studying this text on its own. So, what is this text? Okay, I'm going to get rid of my graphic. I'm way too proud of that. Essentially what this album itself is a text. It's an album, but it's also a book. Like, the best literature can elicit empathy, That's the reason why we need books as opposed to just movies. Because, if you read inside the mind of a person, you can really feel with them, and that helps you connect to other people. This album is essentially just a book. It's a book about the pain of love. It's about a breakup. It's about the failure of romance, substance abuse, rebound relationships, crushing on people. It's a woman's struggle through what appears to be a very painful breakup. And it's really good. It's very consistent. It's alarmingly consistent. I mean, it's from start to end. That's the only thing the album's about. The production is very consistent. I'll describe it briefly. It's very sparse. It's usually just like a drum and the singing and usually bass, and maybe piano or guitar. It's layered nicely, where just at the part where you want something to happen in the song, something happens. Good examples in the song Too Sad. A guitar comes in sort of out of nowhere and it kind of blows the roof off the tune. And there's another song called Liar, where the drums just grow and grow. So it's this amazingly unified album, but usually when I think of something's being unified, I end up getting bored by it. I never got bored with this album, not the entire way through. And that's primarily because the music is good, it's talented, but that is not the point of this album. The point of this album is the singing and the lyrics. It is this woman singing this experience, writing you this novel of heartbreak. I'm going to do something I've never done before on the show, and I'm actually just going to read you the lyrics to one of the songs. And I think it illustrates how insanely good these lyrics are. The song is called Romance. It connects with the previous song called New York, which is all about this sort of like random encounter. It's maybe like a one-night stand or a rebound. Something's happening in New York. Like she broke up with some guy and she's like with some other guy here. And I hope you can sort of see the way that this brings in some sense of empathy, the way she narrates the story. And you feel, it's poetic, but also it's narrative. And in the night, it was a drunken stutter. Started as next to nothing conversation. Then he's tearing me out, taking me apart at my friend's house. I was uncomfortable, I was hurt. Still with blue innocence in his eyes, I felt my reasoning was harsh. With every stab wound and exhale, I promised myself I would never lose my youthful fears of grown-up men. I'm scarred with cruel intentions. I thought of another the whole time, who would have never stared me like that. See, he saw me as a human. This one thinks I'm a slaughterhouse. He pretends that he's understanding, and in the grand scheme of everything, he's probably called a nice man, an ordinary kind of man, or a stereotype with strong hands. I'm so sad at how little joy I realized within my time with my ex-guy before these statues arrive. Romance is dead and done, and it hits between the eyes on this side. The grass is dead and barren, and it hurts between my thighs on my side. So I'll stop there before I start crying. But I think you can see the way it gets kind of conversational. This might be a normal guy, kind of a stereotype guy, with the sort of poetic, with these, the way that she's describing the human sex act as being sort of disappointing stab wounds. Anyways, it's an amazing song. Musically, it's atypical because it has like a automated electronic drum beat that's then supplemented with a real drum beat. But if you found that interesting, if you want to hear an entire album like that, about the death of romance, about thinking about someone else when you're with somebody else, then this is an album for you. There's all these great little details in these lyrics, in this text. Like saying things like, I was crying in the staff room, selling my seats to your concert. And what staff room? Like, what does that even mean? But like, I've cried in the staff room before, I spiked my own drink to put myself to sleep. An amazing song. Obviously Romance gets a Skye stamp. Another one is a song called Dazzler, which is all about hotel sadness. Like she talks about what all the towels in a hotel are used for. She talks about late checkout. She describes looking at herself in the mirror and seeing herself as beautiful as she was when she was 24 before she met the guy who apparently this whole album is dedicated to. Looks at herself and says, God, I'm gorgeous. It has this really intimate feeling. Like each song is a chapter, and this is the chapter where she goes back to her hotel and just pontificates about the loneliness of a hotel room. Most of the album is very downbeat, but there are a couple rockers, like a song, I Can't Keep You, which is a particularly excellent song. I would give it a stamp, but we'll just keep it to 2. If you're going to listen to 2 songs, and I suggest that you do, listen to Romance and Dazzler. At some point, she says in a song called It's Too Sad, what I think is the thesis of the album, if I could write you back here, it would be my best work. So I think that's what this is. I think this is a book that she wrote to her ex-boyfriend, And in this book, she's trying to bring him back, but she knows that she can't. So this work that she's doing here is not going to be achieving what it wants. But what it achieves is something spectacular all the same. To have a Professor Payne positively pretentious postface, I would say that for those of you who like French literature, it's pretty similar to the work of Annie Ernaux, who is this French author who writes these little tiny books. And they're all just about her life. And you can't quite figure out, like, is this a journal? Is this literature? Is this just a woman talking about all the, like, the affair that she had, or the abortion that she had, or her experience with growing up, or all these things, like these little tiny books that make you feel that you really know this person while constantly wondering where's the line between fiction and reality. And what she says in one of her best books is there's no such thing as inferior truth. And I would say this album is evidence of that. This is just some woman who loved some guy and it ended. That's banal. That's stupid. That's everywhere. That's 30% of every song that's ever been released. But this entire album is so rich in its complexity and in its writing that it ends up becoming this great, massive, epic work. So, I guess I liked it. If I had to give a 3-word review, which I tend to do, I would say I liked epic. I like how I use that word. Heartbreaking, epic, intimate. Because, epic and intimate usually don't go together. Heartbroken, epic, intimate. Even better. All right, so there's Skye's Sweaty Record review. And let's see what's going to be my trivia. Oh, I guess I'll ask, what color duct tape was I using? Silver tape. When I grew up, I thought that was just called silver tape. I never even heard of duct tape. Okay, until the next episode, there's the camera.